Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are stripping away the glamour. We are leaving the bright lights of Madison Square Garden. We are stepping away from the Crypto.com arena, and we are going down to the basement.
Or rather, the engine room.
The engine room. That is really the perfect way to put it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the ship doesn't move without it, but nobody pays for a ticket to go look at the engine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were talking about the NBA G League, and I think for a lot of people, even, serious basketball fans who watch the NBA every night, this league is sort of a blind spot. It's this mysterious holding pattern where players just disappear to. And if they're lucky, they reappear later with a better jump shot.
Right. It's historically been viewed as the island of misfit toys, a place for guys who weren't quite fast enough or tall enough or skilled enough for the big time.
Yeah, the almosts.
The almosts. But if you actually look at the mechanics of the modern NBA, how rosters are built, how money is spent, how the game is actually played, you can't understand any of it without understanding the G League.
It's the R&D lab.
It is the R&D lab. It's the testing ground for players, for coaches, for referees, and, even for the rules of the game itself. And honestly, the story of how it got here, I mean, from a tiny experiment in the South to a global operation, It's a crash course in the business of modern sports.
So before we get into the weeds of contracts and call-ups, let's start with the branding, because this is the first clue that this isn't your grandfather's minor league. If you've been watching hoops for 20 years, you know this wasn't always the G League.
No, not at all. And the name change is actually a massive piece of sports business trivia.
Right.
We are so used to stadiums being named after banks or airlines. It's just background noise now. But in 2017, this became the first U.S. professional sports league to be named entirely after an advertiser.
G stands for Gatorade.
It stands for Gatorade. It went from the pretty generic development league, or D League, to a fully branded property. And that matters. It really does. It signals that this isn't just some charity project for the NBA anymore.
No, it's a real asset.
It's a commercial asset. It has a corporate identity.
Which is wild when you think about it. The Gatorade League.
Yeah.
But we've all just accepted it as the G League now. It flows.
It does, and it speaks to the partnership. I mean, Gatorade is about fuel and performance. The league is about development and performance. It's a synergy that actually, it makes sense, unlike some stadium names we could mention.
For sure.
Yeah.
So lay out the map for us. What are we looking at today in terms of scale? Because I think people still imagine this as like 6 teams playing in high school gyms.
It is so far from that now. Today, we have 31 teams.
31.
31. That is nearly a 1-to-1 ratio with the NBA, which has 30 teams. You've got 29 franchises in the United States, stretching from Maine all the way to California.
Wow.
Then you have the Raptors 905 up in Canada.
And then the fascinating outlier, the Mexico City Capitanes.
Exactly. We are looking at a league that has stretched its tentacles across the entire continent. But to appreciate that scale, you have to realize how humble the beginnings were. I mean, in 2001, this thing was barely a blip on the radar.
And this brings us to the mission of the Deep Dive today. We want to understand how a tiny league of 8 teams in the southeastern U.S. evolved into this massive international R&D lab for the NBA.
And how it works for the players.
Right. And exactly how it acts as a shortcut, or maybe a detour, to the big leagues for players.
Yeah, we want to peel back the curtain on the mechanics. How does a player go from making, say, $35,000 in a small town to guarding LeBron James on national TV? What does that journey actually look like?
So let's go back. Section 1 of our story. The origin. The NBDL.
The National Basketball Development League. This feels like ancient history now, doesn't it?
It really does. I was looking at the original press releases from June 2000. David Stern, the commissioner at the time, and Russ Granick, his deputy, they lay out this plan. And the context here is so important.
It's everything.
The NBA had been trying to buy the CBA, the Continental Basketball Association.
Right. For those who don't know, the CBA had been the de facto minor league for decades. It was gritty. It was wild.
A real proving ground.
It was. Phil Jackson coached there. George Karl coached there. It was where you went to cut your teeth. The NBA tried to buy it in early 2000 to bring it in-house, to formalize that relationship. But the deal fell through.
The CBA owners just said no.
They rejected the offer. They thought the NBA was lowballing them, trying to take their league for cheap.
So Stern pulls a classic David Stern move and says, fine, we'll build our own.
Yeah, exactly. We will do it ourselves, and we will do it our way. But their way in 2001 was, well, it was odd. Very odd.
How so?
They launched with just 8 teams, and they were all huddled together in the southeastern United States.
The geography is so specific. Virginia, the Carolinas, Alabama, Georgia. Why there? Why not spread them out?
It was an experiment in pure efficiency. They wanted to keep travel costs rock bottom.
The bus leagues.
A bus league. That's the perfect term for it. They wanted to bus teams between games instead of flying. If you put all the teams within a 6-hour drive of each other, you save a fortune on airfare and hotels. It was a shoestring budget.
But the branding. We have to talk about the branding. The team names from that 2001 season are just incredible. They sound like created teams in a video game.
Oh, they are spectacular.
The first ever champions were the Greenville Groove.
The Greenville Groove, based in South Carolina, just rolls off the tongue.
And they defeated the North Charleston Lowgators.
Lowgators is actually a pretty cool name, referencing the Low Country region. I'll give them that one.
Okay, that one gets a pass. But then you had the Mobile Revelers,
Yeah.
the Fayetteville Patriots,
All very, generic early 2000s sports branding.
and my personal favorite, the Roanoke Dazzle.
The Roanoke Dazzle.
It sounds like a bad magic show at a casino. And now, for your halftime entertainment, the Great Dazzle.
It does. But that was the vibe. It was small town family entertainment. They were trying to sell tickets for $10, $15 a pop.
So what was the in-arena experience actually like?
It was. Well, it was minor league. They tried to package it as a single entity. All the uniforms looked the same, just with different colors and logos. They had the NBDL logo plastered everywhere.
They did have a TV deal, though, right?
They did, which was huge for a startup minor league. A deal with ESPN, too. So there was some national exposure, but the in-arena experience, it was tough.
What were the numbers like? You see any attendance figures?
The attendance was brutal. They averaged about 1,640 fans per game that first year.
Oof.
The NBA expected more, but you have to put yourself in the shoes of a fan in Fayetteville in 2002. The players are guys you've never heard of. They are 20 years old. The connection to the NBA felt very, very distant.
It wasn't like today where you see a guy in the G League and think, he might be on the Lakers next week.
Not at all. It felt like a completely separate ecosystem, a walled garden. You didn't feel like you were watching future stars. You felt like you were watching guys that couldn't make it.
A league of consolation prizes.
That's a good way to put it. But even then, the proof of concept worked. The talent was there. You just had to squint to see it. And we had Chris Anderson, the Birdman.
A Birdman. The mohawk and the tattoos.
Before the mohawk, actually. He was very fresh-faced back then. But he was the first player drafted by an NBDL team to get called up to the NBA. He went to the Denver Nuggets.
And he had a long, very successful career. He won a ring with Miami.
A very good career. So the scouts knew the talent was there. The business model just wasn't working. The fans weren't coming.
So that leads us to 2005, the first pivot. They dropped the National, and it becomes the D-League.
This was a pure branding strategy. Put NBA front and center. NBA Development League.
To make that connection explicit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They wanted fans to know this wasn't the CBA. This was the NBA's little brother. It was an attempt to borrow credibility from the parent brand.
And this is where the map starts to just explode. The Southeastern strategy goes right out the window.
Completely. This is the Wild West era of the league. You had private ownership groups coming in and seeing an opportunity.
Like who?
There was a group called Southwest Basketball, LLC. They bought up these struggling franchises in the South and moved them to where the money was or where they thought the money was.
So they're leaving the Carolinas in?
They went to Albuquerque, they went to Austin, they went to Bakersfield, California. The league started chasing markets rather than just bus routes.
And what happened to the original teams?
They were the casualties. The Roanoke Dazzle, the Fayetteville Patriots. They folded. The league abandoned the region that birthed it. It was pretty ruthless.
It sounds chaotic. Teams popping up, moving, folding. It sounds like a startup that hasn't found its product market fit yet.
That is exactly what it was. It was volatile. But in 2006, amidst all that chaos, something happened that I would argue is the most important structural moment in the league's history.
The Lakers.
The Los Angeles Lakers bought a team.
The Defenders.
That's right, now known as the South Bay Lakers. But at the time, this was radical. Before this, you had league-operated teams or independent local owners. The Lakers were the first NBA franchise to say, no, we are going to buy our own minor league affiliate, and we are going to run it from top to bottom.
Why was that such a big deal? Why didn't every team just do that immediately?
Money. Pure and simple. It's expensive to run a basketball team that loses money. And make no mistake, G League teams generally aren't printing cash.
They're a line item in the expense column.
They are cost centers. The Lakers have deep pockets, so they could afford it. But for a team like the Milwaukee Bucks or the Indiana Pacers back then, Dropping a few million on a minor league team wasn't an easy sell to ownership.
So you had this gap. You had NBA teams who wanted the control the Lakers had. They wanted to develop their own guys in their own system, but they didn't want to buy the cow.
Precisely. And that tension, that problem, led to the second big pivot, which brings us to Section 2, the structural revolution.
This is where we talk about the hybrid model. It sounds like a business school case study, but it really did save the league, didn't it?
It really is. It stabilized everything. The breakthrough came in 2009 with the Houston Rockets.
Of course, it's the Rockets.
Of course. Particularly under Daryl Morey at the time, they were the kings of efficiency and analytics. They wanted to control all the variables.
They wanted their G League team to play exactly like the Rockets. Shoot threes, layups only, switch everything on defense, a perfect replica.
Right. They wanted to mandate the style of play, but they didn't want to run the ticket sales in the Rio Grande Valley. They didn't want to deal with local sponsorships or paying the janitors at the arena.
They wanted the lab, not the business.
Exactly. So they struck a deal with the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. It's called a single affiliation partnership, the hybrid model.
Okay, so break down the division of labor there.
Yeah.
Because this is the secret sauce.
It's brilliant. The local owners in Texas run the business side. They sell the hot dogs, they book the halftime acts, they sell the local sponsorships, and they pay the arena rent. They keep whatever profit comes from that.
Okay. And the Rockets?
The Rockets run the basketball, period. They hire the coaches, they sign the players, they dictate the offensive and defensive schemes, they pay for all the basketball operations.
So it's the best of both worlds. The Rockets get a laboratory without the overhead of running a local business, and the local owners get a product that is directly tied to an NBA team.
Right, which helps sell tickets because you can market the connection. Come see the future Houston Rockets. It was a win-win.
It solved the financial hurdle.
It did. And once the Rockets proved it worked, and boy did it work, the Vipers were a powerhouse. The floodgates opened. You saw the Nets, the Knicks, the Blazers, all these other teams scrambling for these hybrid deals.
Well, this model allowed the NBA team to control the development without having to buy the franchise outright.
Exactly. And it solved a problem that I think a lot of fans don't realize existed, the sharing nightmare.
Oh, the sharing era was a disaster, right?
A complete disaster for actual development. Before this one-to-one affiliation became the norm, you had shared affiliates.
So walk me through that.
So imagine you are the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, and on your roster, you've got a point guard sent down by the Detroit Pistons, a center sent down by the Milwaukee Bucks, and a winger sent down by the Indiana Pacers.
And the coach is just stuck in the middle of all that.
The coach is pulling his hair out. The Pistons are calling him, saying they want their point guard to run 100 pick and rolls a game. The Bucks call and say they want their big man to work on post-ups. The Pacers want their guy to practice shooting corner threes.
The schemes completely clash. You can't build a culture. You can't build a system.
You can't. The coach serves 3 masters, which means he serves none of them. His only job is to give everyone minutes and hope nobody gets hurt.
It's babysitting, not development.
Exactly. But the hybrid model killed that. And by 2015, the Indiana Pacers bought the Mad Ants, who were the last independent holdout, and that was it. The era of sharing was over. We moved to a rigid one-to-one structure. Every NBA team has its partner.
And that changed the geography again, didn't it? Because once you own the team or you control the basketball operations, you don't want them in South Dakota if you play in Miami.
Logistics became king. It was no longer about saving money on travel for the whole league. It was about efficiency for one organization.
Right. If you need a player for a Tuesday night game because your starter rolled an ankle at shoot-around, you need him now.
You need him now. You don't want him taking 3 connecting flights and showing up exhausted 2 hours before tip-off.
So we saw the Great Migration.
The Great Migration is a perfect way to put it. The New Jersey Nets, when they moved to Brooklyn, they eventually moved their affiliate to Long Island.
Close by.
The Phoenix Suns bought the Bakersfield Jam and moved them to Prescott Valley, Arizona. The Utah Jazz moved their team from Idaho all the way down to Salt Lake City.
Literally in the same city.
Right. It turned the league into a true localized farm system, very similar to what baseball has with its AAA teams, but often even tighter geographically.
It's all about creating a seamless transition. You want the player to be able to just drive down the highway, not fly across the country.
Right. It reinforces the idea that you are part of the family. You're just down the road. You're not in exile.
So we've built the machine. We have the teams. We have the owners. We have the locations. Now let's look at the actual product, the player.
The talent. This is Section 3. How does a player actually exist in this world?
Yeah, if I'm a player, how do I actually get here? And more importantly, what is my life like? Because I think people hear pro basketball and they think private jets and Ritz-Carltons.
That is not the G League reality. Not even close.
Let's talk numbers. If I am just a standard G League player, not on an NBA deal, just a guy who made the team from a tryout or the G League draft, what am I making?
The base salary is around $35,000 for the season.
35 grand. I mean,
Yeah.
you can make more managing a fast food franchise. You can make more driving Uber full-time in some cities.
You absolutely can. Now, to be fair, the season is shorter. It's about 6 months long.
Yeah.
And they do get housing provided and insurance benefits.
Yeah.
But it is a grind, a serious grind.
What's the travel like?
You are flying commercial middle seat and coach. You are staying in basic hotels. You are often sharing rooms with a teammate. You are playing for the love of the game and the hope of a lottery ticket.
And that lottery ticket is the call-up.
Right. The call-up. If you get called up to the NBA, even for a 10-day contract, the money changes instantly. A 10-day contract can be worth more than your entire G League salary.
And there are bonuses in the G League contracts now, right?
Yeah, they've added incentives. You can earn up to $50,000 extra depending on call-ups and other performance metrics. But the real revolution for the players, the thing that changed everything, came in 2017 with the two-way contract.
This is a term we hear constantly on broadcasts now. Oh, he's on a two-way. But explain the mechanics. Why was this such a game changer?
Before 2017, you were either an NBA player or a G League player. There was a hard wall between the two. If an NBA team wanted to keep you, they had to use one of their precious 15 roster spots.
The teams are very protective of those spots.
Very. So a lot of good, young, developmental guys would get cut. The two-way contract put a door in that wall.
No so.
An NBA team can now sign up to 3 players on these special deals. These players officially belong to the NBA team, but they spend the bulk of their time playing for the G League affiliate.
But they can come up.
They can float. They can be active on the NBA roster for up to 50 games during the regular season. Originally, it was 45 days. The rules have tweaked a bit, but basically, they can float back and forth as needed.
And the money.
It's a massive jump. A two-way player earns a flat salary that's half of the rookie minimum. So for the current season, we're talking about a little over $550,000.
So instead of $35,000, you are making $500,000. That changes your life.
It's a different stratosphere. It keeps talent in the ecosystem. Before this, if you were a borderline NBA player, a really good one, you go to Europe. You go to Turkey or Spain or China, where you can make $200,000 or $300,000 tax-free. The NBA was losing that depth.
Right. They were developing talent for other leagues.
The two-way contract allows the NBA to pay enough to keep those guys in North America, just a phone call away from the big club.
It's asset retention. It's just smart business.
100%.
Now, we have to talk about the Ignite experiment. Because for a few years there, it really felt like the G League was trying to go to war with the NCAA.
It was a very aggressive move. We're talking 2019, 2020. The one-and-done rule in college was, highly controversial.
Forcing top players to go to college for a year when they were clearly ready for the pros.
Right. You had these elite high school players who didn't want to go to Biology 101. They wanted to be pros. They were physically ready. But the rule said they couldn't go to the NBA for one more year.
So the G League said, come here. We'll pay you.
They introduced something called select contracts, a base salary of $125,000, but it was reported that top stars like Jalen Green or Scoot Henderson got significantly more, maybe close to $1 million.
And they created a special team for them, right? The G League Ignite.
Yes, based in Nevada. And this team was weird. It wasn't affiliated with the Knicks or the Lakers or anyone.
It was a league-owned team.
Right. Their sole purpose was to prepare these teenagers for the NBA draft. They were surrounded by veteran pros who acted as mentors, but the focus was entirely on developing the kids. No pressure to win games, just get better.
And on paper, it sounded perfect. Jalen Green goes, nah, 2 overall.
Yeah.
Jonathan Kuminga goes in the lottery. It worked.
It did work mechanically. It produced high-level draft picks. It proved you could bypass college and still succeed, but then the world changed.
NIL.
Name, image, and likeness. All of a sudden, college athletes could get paid. Legally.
And not just a little bit of pocket money.
No. If you are a top recruit, a guy who would have considered Ignite, you can now go to Duke or Kentucky, play on national TV every single night, be a campus hero, play in front of 20,000 screaming fans, and make $1 million or more in endorsements.
Compare that to playing in an empty gym in Nevada for the Ignite.
Exactly. The G League salary, even at $500,000, suddenly looked less appealing. The unique value proposition just collapsed. It evaporated almost overnight.
And that leads to the Ignite folding after the 2023-24 season.
It's a fascinating case study in how quickly the sports landscape shifts. The G League identified a market inefficiency, unpaid labor, and they exploited it. Then the NCAA fixed that inefficiency, and the G League retreated.
But they didn't retreat completely. They just pivoted back to their core competency, developing guys who were already pros or just on the cusp.
Right. And that system is working better than ever. Which brings us to Section 4. Does it work?
Let's look at the success stories. Because the alumni list is starting to look like an all-star team. It's not just fringe guys anymore.
It really is. I think you have to start with Khris Middleton.
The Milwaukee Bucks champion, multiple-time all-star.
He was a second-round pick. He was traded to the Bucks. He was sent to the Fort Wayne Mad Ants early in his career. He wasn't a superstar prospect. He had to grind. He had to learn how to be a professional scorer down there.
And he did.
And in 2019, he became the first G League alum to make an NBA All-Star team. That broke the glass ceiling. It sent a message to the whole league.
It proved you could go down and come back stronger. It wasn't a death sentence for your career.
No, it was a launch pad. And then you have Pascal Siakam. His story is the gold standard for what the G League can be.
Late start to basketball. Drafted by Toronto. Sent immediately to the Raptors, 905.
And he didn't just play there. He dominated. He led them to a championship. He was the finals MVP of the G League. But it was the way he played that mattered.
What do you mean?
The Raptors' 905 coaches, under orders from the main club, let him do everything. They let him handle the ball like a point guard. They let him shoot threes, even though he wasn't a great shooter yet. They let him make mistakes.
That's the key, right? In the NBA, if a young Pascal Siakam turns the ball over twice in the first quarter trying to go coast to coast, he's benched.
Immediately. In the NBA, the goal is to win tonight. In the G League, the goal is to get better for tomorrow. The Raptors' 905 gave him the reps to fail, to experiment, and to grow.
And 2 years later,
he's the second best player on an NBA championship team and wins most improved player. That doesn't happen without the G League.
That's the R&D part we talked about.
Yeah.
The Raptors used the 905 not just to stash him, but to actively build him into the player they needed.
Exactly. You see it with Rudy Gobert, too, the Stifle Tower. He's spent time with the Bakersfield Jam, working on his timing, his conditioning, his hands. Now he's a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year.
And we can't forget Fred VanVleet.
Bet on yourself. The ultimate story. Undrafted, grinded it out with the Raptors' 905, became an NBA champion, an all-star.
It's reached a point now where, if you look at the numbers, it's just ubiquitous. In 2011, about 23% of NBA players had G League experience. What are we at now?
It's over 50% on opening night rosters most years. If you include two-ways and guys who've done short stints, it's the majority of the league. It is no longer a stigma to go to the G League. It is a rite of passage.
It's almost weird if you don't go down for a stint, unless you're a top 5 pick.
Even some top picks go down for rehab assignments or just to get their rhythm back. Stephen Curry played in the G League briefly on a rehab assignment.
That's wild. Imagine showing up to a Santa Cruz Warriors game and Steph Curry is warming up.
It happens. Klay Thompson did it too after his injuries. It's part of the process now.
I want to shift gears to Section 5, the culture. Because the G League isn't just a carbon copy of the NBA. It has its own weird energy. It feels different.
It definitely does. It's grittier. There's an edge to it.
To showcase. This fascinates me.
Yeah.
It's been described as a carnival for scouts.
That's a great way to put it. It's the highest pressure job interview in sports. Started way back in 2005. The idea is efficiency.
Right.
Instead of an NBA GM flying to Maine on Tuesday and then Sioux Falls on Thursday, the league brings every team to one location for 4 days.
Usually Vegas now, right? At Mandalay Bay.
Mandalay Bay Convention Center. And convention center is the key word. It's not even a real arena most of the time. It's just courts set up in a massive hall. You'll have games running simultaneously on adjacent courts.
And the stands. Who is watching these games?
It's not fans. It's guys in polos holding iPads and notebooks. Hundreds of them. Every NBA general manager is there. Scouts from every team. Scouts from Europe. Scouts from Asia. It's a meat market.
What's the sound like?
The silence is unique. You don't hear a roaring crowd. You hear sneakers squeaking, coaches yelling, and the low hum of executives talking on their phones.
That sounds incredibly stressful for the players.
The tension is palpable.
Yeah.
Every player on that floor knows that this is the moment. If you dunk on someone here, the right person sees it. If you play lazy defense here, you're basically unemployed. Your career can be made or broken in one 48-minute game.
And they raised the stakes recently to make it even more intense.
Yeah, in 2019, they added the Showcase Cup. It's a mini tournament with a $100,000 prize for the winning team.
For guys making a $35,000 salary, A share of $100 K is life-changing money. That pays off the student loans. That buys a car.
It turns up the intensity. It makes the games matter. It's not just an exhibition anymore. It's a dogfight.
And then you have the rules. We mentioned the G League is a laboratory. What are some of the weirdest things they've tested over the years?
Well, the one free throw rule is the biggest one currently. To speed up the game, if you get fouled on a two-point shot, you shoot one free throw. If you make it, it counts for 2 points.
And on a three-pointer.
One free throw for 3 points.
That must be terrifying for the shooter. The pressure on that one shot is immense. You miss one shot and you leave 3 points on the board.
It changes the math completely.
Yeah.
And it does speed up the game because you cut out all the standing around between free throws.
What else have they tried?
They tested the coaches' challenge before the NBA adopted it. They tested the reset timeout. They've played with a 14-second shot clock reset on offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
If you watch the G League, you are watching the NBA of 5 years from now.
They even had a game of HORSE at their All-Star Weekend.
They did. The Dream Factory. Friday night at their All-Star Weekend, they had a dunk contest, a three-point contest, and yes, a HORSE competition. Lance Allred, the first legally deaf player in NBA history, won the first one. It just shows that the league doesn't take itself too seriously. They are willing to try stuff.
I love that. But let's get serious about the resilience of this league. We all remember the NBA bubble in Disney World. LeBron winning the ring in the empty gym. But the G League did it too.
The 2021 Gubble, as some people called it.
The Gubble, I like that.
It was optional. Only 17 of the teams decided to participate and go to Disney World. But the fact that they spent the money to do it, I mean, frankly, the NBA could have just canceled the G League season.
Right, it's a cost center. Nobody would have blamed them during the pandemic.
But they realized they couldn't afford to stop the pipeline. They couldn't have a whole year with no development. The players needed the reps. The referees needed the reps. The coaches needed the reps.
That proves the engine room thesis. You can't shut down the engine just because the ship is in a storm.
Exactly. It proved how essential the league had become to the entire NBA ecosystem.
So where does this engine go next? Section 6. International reach and the future. We talked about the map earlier, and we mentioned Mexico City. This feels like the biggest clue to the future of the league.
The Mexico City Capitanes. They joined in the 2021-22 season, and unlike the other teams, they are independent. They aren't owned by the Phoenix Suns or the Spurs. They're their own entity.
And they aren't playing in the convention center.
No. They play in the Mexico City Arena. The capacity is 22,300.
That is bigger than the arenas in Boston, in New York, in Los Angeles. That is a full-blown NBA arena.
It is, and that's the point. This isn't just about developing players, it's about developing a market. The NBA is using the G League to test the logistics of having a permanent franchise south of the border.
Can the travel work? Is the high altitude a real issue for visiting teams? Do the fans show up consistently?
And by all accounts, the fans are showing up. It creates a legitimate home court advantage for them. It's loud, it's passionate, they care.
So it circles back to that R&D concept, but now it's market R&D.
Right. If the Capitanes are a sustained success over 5, 6, 7 years, it makes the argument for an NBA expansion team in Mexico City much, much easier to sell to the owners.
And if it fails?
Well, it failed in the minor leagues. The risk is managed. The parent brand, the NBA, is protected.
Low-stakes failure, high-stakes reward.
Precisely. And that's why the G League is so fascinating right now. It allows the NBA to take risks on players, on rules, on entire cities that they could never take with the main product. You can't just move the Celtics to London for a season to see if it works.
You could move a G League team there.
You could. And that's the door that's now open.
So, as we wrap this up, let's zoom out. We started with the Greenville Groove, playing in what was basically a high school gym. We are ending with a global league playing in 22,000-seat arenas, backed by Gatorade, feeding half the NBA's workforce.
It's a remarkable evolution. In 20 years, it went from a nice-to-have afterthought to a must-have pillar of the league.
I think about someone like Nick Nurse. He's an NBA champion coach. He's coached superstars. Where did he cut his teeth?
The G League. He coached the Iowa Energy. He coached the Rio Grande Valley Vipers to a championship. He learned how to manage personalities, how to experiment with weird lineups, how to innovate on the fly. He doesn't become Nick Nurse, the mad scientist coach, without those long bus rides in Iowa.
It's the school of hard knocks, but with a corporate budget now.
A corporate budget and better Gatorade flavors, yeah.
So here is the final thought I want to leave you with. We've seen the G League try to replace the NCAA with the Ignite team. And for various reasons, that experiment ended. But we see them succeeding with the Mexico City experiment.
Right.
Is the future of the G League actually international expansion?
Yeah.
If the NBA wants to go to Europe, do they start with a G League division in London and Paris first?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? Adam Silver has talked about a European division for years. The G League provides the perfect vessel to test that. You don't have to launch 4 brand new NBA teams immediately.
No, you launch G League teams.
You launch G League teams. You test the waters. You learn the travel logistics. You see if the fans will support it.
A G League Euro division.
It makes total sense. You build the infrastructure, you build the fan base, and then if it works, you promote those franchises to the NBA. The G League could be the Trojan horse for the NBA's global domination.
It's not just a feeder system anymore, it's the vanguard.
It is the tip of the spear.
So next time you see a guy check into an NBA game with a number like 47 on his jersey and you don't know his name, pay attention. He just survived the most competitive laboratory in sports.
And he's hungry.
Thanks for diving in with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next one.